Well, a very good morning to you all, and welcome to our Mental Health Awareness Week. My name is Natalie Ashdown from Open Door Coaching, and I'm joined on the line by Nick on our team and also Charles Hill from the Black Dog Institute. It's been a real pleasure actually to bring you this series of small webinars focusing on our mental health during Mental Health Awareness Week 2020. And today, it's my pleasure to introduce you to Charles Hill from the Black Dog Institute. Charles is a community volunteer presenter from the Black Dog Institute. He's a loving husband to his wife Vicky. He's a dad to his two teenage sons, Christian and Andrew, and he has a 4-year-old Labradoodle. So when Charles is not volunteering, he's making editorial contributions to his own not-for-profit mental health wellbeing project, which is known as the Glass Half Full, or more simply, the GHFC. So during this presentation, Charles is going to introduce us to breaking down depression, and it's a really important topic during Mental Health Week. That we bring this topic to you. So Charles, I'm really keen to hear from you and for you to share your lived experience of mental health. And I thank you in advance actually for your willingness to share your journey with mental health. And to bring your ideas to the group today. If anyone would like to interact with us, to ask Charles a question or to pass comment, you might like to pop a message into the chat box and I will pick those up. Just knowing, just bearing in mind that we're not doctors. Charles is sharing his lived experience of mental health with mental health, but we are really keen to open up the discussion and include you and answer as many questions as we can. So without ado, thank you, Charles. It's wonderful to see you. Thank you for your time this morning, and we look forward to enjoying your presentation.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Natalie. Just nod your head if you can hear me. Yeah, okay, great. Firstly, I would just like to conduct the Acknowledgement of Country, where we like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, at the same time paying our respects to the elders, both past and present, extending this respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders with us today. So hello and good morning to Open Door Coaching. My name is Charles, as Natalie said. I am speaking as a volunteer on behalf of the Black Dog Institute. When not doing this, I enjoy spending time with my wife, Vicky, and my two teenage sons, Christian and Andrew. And our Labradoodle, who is 4 years old, as Natalie mentioned, called Barley. As in the place, not the grain. Now, I also contribute to my own not-for-profit mental health wellbeing project known as the Glass Half Full community, or more simply the GHFC, where I provide an online presence in support of all the current mainstream mental health and wellbeing organisations, such as the Black Dog Institute, sharing their latest innovations, technological advances, and also doing that with our readership of the GHFC. This project evolved during 2017 as a result of my own experiences with the Black Dog, being anxiety and depression, manifesting themselves in debilitating circumstances in 2004, 2011, and to a lesser degree in 2017. So the reason I'm here today is to try to make a difference by sharing the life lessons that I have learned in embracing the fact that, yes, I have a mental illness, that, yes, I can now recognize the triggers, and that, yes, I am aware of all the coping strategies and support that are available. To share my experiences with you, so if anything, to reassure you that it is okay to feel mentally unwell, to reassure you that it is okay to seek professional support from your GP and referred psychologist, that it is okay to take prescribed medication and combine it with tried and tested cognitive behavior exercises. And to reassure you that if all these steps appear too daunting, that it is okay to Google the Black Dog Institute and to contact them for advice and support. In short, I define how I live with my mental illness as opposed to my mental illness defining me. So, as the title says, today's presentation is Breaking Down Depression. It takes about 30 minutes, in which time I'll tell you a little bit more about the Black Dog Institute and how to recognize depression and where to seek support. We are also aware that this is a stressful and difficult time and that we are all impacted in different ways. While we won't be specifically focusing on addressing COVID-19 in relation to mental health, I will be sharing some resources that might be helpful to you, your family members, and your community to manage the impact of COVID-19, but more on that a little bit later on. I'll be sharing with you my personal story in the hope that we can continue to better understand mental illness, to feel more comfortable talking about it, and to work together to reduce its impact. For any questions regarding my story, please do use the chat box, which I will then answer after the presentation. However, for more specific mental health inquiries, you will be able to contact Black Dog Institute directly, either via a feedback and query form, or you can contact us direct, and I will provide some details for that at the end. Okay. For those of you who aren't aware, Black Dog Institute is a research institute, and a not-for-profit organisation that aims to contribute to a mentally healthier world. Doing this by reducing the incidence of mental illness and suicide, by removing stigma, and by empowering everyone to live the most mentally healthy life possible. The Black Dogs Institute's model is designed to rapidly translate evidence-based research findings to address mental health issues in the clinic, in the community, in the schoolyard, and in the workplace. So let me start by telling you a little bit about my own story with mental illness. And as you will hear, mental illness impacts your thoughts, your feelings, behavior, relationships, day-to-day activities, in fact, your general experience of life. So my story with anxiety began when I was pursuing a career in sales alongside the Australian arm of a very successful global company. Now, please let me assure you, my story is not one of sour grapes, nor apportioning blame towards my employer. In fact, far from it, for they were way ahead of their time in terms of looking after their people regarding both physical and mental health. But I first knew that something was not quite right when one Thursday morning in the spring of 2004, I was sat at my desk and I froze. I just could not function. The notes on my computer made absolutely no sense. The files on my desk were all gobbledygook. I was in a state of paralysis, just 100% incapacitated. Fortunately, the company had a culture of support with a realistic open door policy to which I immediately availed myself, sheepishly walking in to the office of our head of human resources. Now, she could see I was not my usual glass half full type, far from it, asking me to sit down, breathe, and then start talking. I did the first two with relief, and then with acute embarrassment, burst into floods of tears. From this point on, the company went into overdrive, involving my boss, who immediately allocated resources and time to assist with my recovery. To this day, I am very grateful for their appropriate and very positive response. Within 24 hours, I had spent time with my GP, who recognized the symptoms of anxiety, advising that I had experienced a breakdown to the point of being diagnosed as clinically depressed. He let me know that he would be referring me to a psychologist. The initial consultations are being covered by a Medicare rebate, as well as prescribing suitable medication and a leave of absence from my place of work. From then on, it was simply a matter of time. Now, initially, I felt confused, scared, even angry. This sort of thing happens to other people, right? Why did it happen so quickly? Why were there no warning signs? Why didn't someone notice? Well, gradually the medication kicked in. I was obviously one of the lucky ones, as I suffered little or no side effects from day one. My GP explained how the meds were counteracting a chemical imbalance in my brain, reducing the potential for erratic mood swings and feelings of anxiety. The other side to this critical equation were the cognitive behavioral techniques, or CBTs, as shared by my psychologist, which I came to refer to as my coping strategies. In short, they were communicating, breathing, and meditating. More on these oh so valuable CBTs a bit later. However, suffice to say, these days I continue to manage my mental health daily to ensure I stay well and to continue to enjoy life as much as possible. So I hear you ask, if you have been successfully applying these coping strategies since 2004, why did you say earlier that you also had serious mental events in 2011 and 2017? Yeah, that's a good question. But firstly, I count 3 serious episodes in 16 years as not being a story of failure. In fact, quite the opposite. My breakdown in 2011 was a result of a complex set of circumstances and involved not only my mental health, but also the mental health of several of my valued and highly respected colleagues. To cut a long story very short, it involved the intimidatory actions of a very senior manager who, in effect, was behaving in a way that is known today as being a toxic manager. Now, my previous experience in 2004 taught me to be aware of my anxiety triggers and resilience barriers, the latter being my English stoicism and Taurian stubbornness. However, on this occasion, both prevailed, meaning I ignored the warning signs, resulting in me paying the price. I should have said that in 2004, I was 45 years old. If only I'd known at 20, 30, or even 40 the signs of a pending mental health condition, I could have avoided all the angst and anxiety and the pain associated with a breakdown. My 2017 episode was by no means as severe as the previous two, mainly because I did recognize the triggers. I did break down the barriers. I did take timely and appropriate action, being consulting with my GP and psychologist. And I did remove myself from a situation that was exacerbating my anxiety. To help yourself or others, we need to try to have a better understanding of mental illness, to know it's okay to reach out for support when needed, and to have a conversation with someone you're worried about, or know that just being there for someone can really make a difference. But first, why is it so important for all of us to try to better understand mental illness? My story of living with a mental illness is not an uncommon one. Mental illness is common. So knowing more about mental illness means we can better help ourselves, or all those we care about. Now, my story of experience a mental health illness is not a unique one. 1 in 5 Australians will experience a mental illness in any given year, with 50% of Australians experiencing a mental illness at some point in their lifetime. Mental illness can happen to anyone. Our challenge is that so many people do not reach out for support, ending up doing it very tough on their own. And tragically, people do die from mental illness. Suicide is the leading cause of death for people aged 15 to 44. However, we seriously believe that suicide is preventable. We know these statistics tell us that mental illness is common and it's serious. We also know that stigma and misunderstanding are still getting in the way of people talking about what is going on for them and reaching out for support when it's needed. So, how come I didn't notice that anything was untoward leading up to 2004? I simply didn't know what to look out for. As I said earlier, that sort of thing happens to other people, right? I didn't realize that my increased anxiety to that Monday morning feeling, or my reticence to socialize, my desire to spend a lot of time in bed, the increase in the chatter of the voice in my head, or my reduced level of excitement when about to attend a sporting event or a concert were all typical symptoms. In fact, neither I nor my family and friends were aware that these are all recognized indicators of anxiety and depression. Hence, I didn't seek help. As for my work colleagues, well, I was really good at hiding my feelings. Being a senior manager, I had attended many leadership courses, personality type indicators, and assorted surveys to drive employee engagement and performance. However, my own interpretation of these excellent initiatives was that as a leader, I was primarily a coach and a mentor, taking on board all the concerns of my team and not offloading mine onto them. I applied this same rationale to my colleagues and to those regarded as my leaders. It took my cataclysmic breakdown in 2004 to bring me to my senses. So it is vital to seek help early to avoid long-term suffering. So how can we intervene early? Well, the first step is learning how to recognize the signs and symptoms and know when to seek help. It is important to understand when normal moods or normal sadness turns into something more serious. It is essential to remember that mild mood swings are normal. The fact is that at some time or other, we all experience periods when we feel low or down, have a drop in our sense of self-worth and feel somewhat depressed. Experiences such as having a bad day at work, an argument, or hearing some bad news can impact on our mood, our self-esteem, our confidence, even making us feel more pessimistic. Sometimes we may even feel sad for no reason at all. Fortunately, in most cases, we bounce back. So how do you know if you're experiencing if what you're experiencing is depression or just normal sadness? Well, there are two key things to keep a check on in regard to depression are your mood. Are you feeling consistently down no matter what's going on around you? And your levels of enjoyment. Are the things you usually enjoy just leaving you flat? If you're feeling consistently down and losing the enjoyment out of things that you normally get enjoyment from, and these feelings have been going on for 2 weeks or longer, that's a sign you should talk to someone about it. Now, depression can be associated with feeling less motivated, even for the things you would normally be motivated by. It can deflate your self-esteem and self-worth, as well as impact your sleep, appetite, energy, even your concentration and memory. Depression is not just feeling sad. It can be feeling, but it's not feeling anything at all, often topped off with an overwhelming feeling of guilt and hopelessness. Just now, I shared some of the common symptoms associated with the onset of my anxiety breakdown. However, I omitted to add that I am also an ambiguity phobe. I need to know exactly what is expected of me in terms of both the outcome and by when. I also find it difficult to cope with people who do not respond to my emails, texts, or phone messages in a timely manner, even if to simply say they've got my message and they'll get back to me. Typically, my ambiguity phobe exacerbates during times of anxiety. Despite the toughness of depression, it can be managed. And talking about it, it really is the first step. It is important to be aware of when normal sadness turns into clinical depression. The main symptoms are lowered self-esteem, feeling hopeless, not able to enjoy life, reduced motivation, sleep appetite or weight changes, less ability to control emotions such as pessimism, anger, guilt, irritability, and anxiety. Varying emotions throughout the day, feeling worse in the morning, but slightly better as the day progresses. A changed sex drive, be that absent or reduced, poor concentration and memory, lowered energy levels, reduced pain tolerance, and suicidal thoughts. If you are concerned that you may have depression, you can try our confidential self-test on the website. The general rule of thumb is if 5 or more of the symptoms above persist for most of every day, for 2 weeks or longer, and these symptoms interfere with a person's ability to manage at home or at work, then it is time to seek help. We would recommend an assessment by a GP or psychiatrist, and I'll talk more about how to seek help later in this presentation. Depression also occurs in bipolar disorder. Bipolar is a name used to describe the disorder where your mood can swing from one extreme to the other. The onset for bipolar disorder is also common in late adolescence. People with bipolar often describe it like living on a roller coaster because they experience periods of severe depression followed by high moods. Some features of the high moods can sound great, like having an elevated mood, needing less sleep, not feeling tired, having lots of energy and motivation, having racing thoughts, often with grandiose ideas, feeling less inhibited, and generally feeling great about yourself. But most people with bipolar disorder will tell you that overall the impacts of unmanaged bipolar disorder are extremely negative on relationships and your day-to-day life. And of course, highs are always followed by lows. The good news is that bipolar disorder is manageable with the right support. If you have mood changes that are more severe than the normal, last more than a few days, or lead to changes in your behavior, then it's really, really important to talk to someone about it. Now, the most common mental illness experienced in Australia is anxiety. There are a range of anxiety disorders that you have probably heard of. The most common ones being social phobia, generalized anxiety disorder, and panic disorder. It's normal to feel stressed or worried from time to time, and in small doses, it can actually help us to perform at our best. Anxiety tends to be limited in duration and connected with some stressful situation or event, like busy periods at work. But anxiety becomes a problem when feelings of worry and fear become really strong and don't go away. These feelings interfere with your ability to carry out your everyday tasks or enjoy your day-to-day life. The fear and worry is combined with uncomfortable physical symptoms such as hot and cold flushes, racing heart, a tightening of the chest, quick breathing, restlessness, feeling tense, wound up, and edgy. In my experience, unhelpful anxiety takes the form of unnecessary worry. In other words, my inner voice, aka self-talk, conjures up a situation that may possibly happen. However, in reality, is more than likely not going to happen, and then blows it out of all proportion, becoming my total focus. My inner voice convinces me that the lack of a person's response is all to do with that person not respecting me or no longer valuing me as a friend, which in truth, that person is actually just flat out with work, family, social commitments, or quite simply has multiple issues to deal with, mine just not being a priority. The result of me feeling this way is that it becomes a distraction. I have negative feelings towards the person concerned, and of course, my anxiety levels rise. So how did I cope with this? Well, I became creative. I let my family and friends and colleagues know that I have a condition with a high level of intolerance towards ambiguity. So if they do have time, to simply acknowledge the receipt of my email, text, or phone call, and all will be good. Simple yet effective. It's communication. Just like depression and bipolar disorder, anxiety disorders can be managed. It's important to know that it's okay not to be okay, and there is help and support available for whenever you might need it. With the right support, mental illness can be managed, and you can go on to do things you want to do in life and enjoy life. If you are experiencing mental illness on your own, life can feel pretty hopeless at times. But it's important to know that these feelings will pass and you won't feel like this forever. I get that it can be hard to take the first step to seeking support. As you heard earlier, my barriers were my own stoicism and stubbornness, barriers that in turn delivered unfavorable outcomes for me. However, on a more positive note, when I did seek out support, it was there in abundance. So now I know that seeking help was the best thing I ever did. It may be time to seek help if you notice multiple warning signs of depression and anxiety, especially if they are having a significant impact on your daily functioning. Remember, with depression, you should seek help if the symptoms are ongoing for more than 2 weeks. For anxiety, the warning signs will be occurring for more days than not in the past 6 months. As I shared earlier, within 24 hours of my initial breakdown in 2004, I had spent time with my GP, who recognized the symptoms of anxiety, diagnosing me as clinically depressed, referring me to a psychologist, providing a prescription for meds, and signing off on a medical certificate for a period of 4 weeks. Now, during this period, my psychologist carried out tests to determine the severity of my depression. She engaged me in conversations aimed at determining the triggers for my anxiety, finally recommending cognitive behavior techniques, which I became to refer to as my coping strategies, being communicating, breathing, and meditating. I had to learn to really ease off on my traditional English stoicism to reassure myself that it was not unmanly or weak to let someone I trusted know that I was feeling slightly anxious or not coping with a certain situation. In short, I had to transition my stoic mindset to one of resilience, hence the communication strategy. Now, breathing properly, that was my light bulb moment. I'm sure many of you are aware that we are habitually shallow breathers. We don't normally sit there breathing in deeply, holding for a count of 10, and then exhaling slowly, only to repeat for up to 20 breaths in and out. No, we just let our subconscious body control our breathing, shallow or otherwise. However, for someone with anxiety, a period of deep breathing in and out is an amazing tonic. Initially, I even used to excuse myself from conferences and meetings, heading to the roof to commence some deep breathing, However, I soon became fed up with that, instead doing deep breathing exercises right there in my seat. Now, true, some of my colleagues were concerned. However, on finding out why, soon it became much more comfortable. In fact, next thing I knew, most of my colleagues were also doing deep breathing exercises, admitting that they too felt much better for it. As for meditation, well, I'm sure we're all aware of what that is. From my perspective, it involved 2 activities of mindfulness, both requiring that I adopt my favorite position, lying flat on my back in bed. The first activity was to shut my eyes and imagine I was in my favorite place, which for me was lying on a sandy beach with the sun warming my body and the sound of the waves gently lapping on the shore. I got really good at this exercise, often dropping off. The second activity took more effort, but was also very effective. The idea was to lie on your back and focus on each individual extremity, be that toes, ankles, knees, butt, shoulders, etc. And while focused on that body part, visualize it and exercise it. Now, this one did take a while to perfect, but I got there and eventually completed a whole circuit of the body, including earlobes, being able to visualize, if not exercise, and eyebrows. Here I am 16 years on from first putting into practice these basic but effective coping strategies, and they still form part of my daily regimen. Throughout the early weeks of my clinical diagnosis, my family and close friends were also learning from my journey, in turn taking a more proactive focus towards supporting me as opposed to the initial well-meant compassion and sympathy. At my work, the head of human resources assumed the role of company support liaison, allowing time for me to settle, then schedule meetings at a cafe nearby simply to catch up. As time progressed, the conversation extended to my rehabilitation back into my role. However, at all times, I was given the respect of the process, it being at my pace. So the first step in seeking help is quite straightforward. See a doctor. A good tip is to book a long consultation, as it can take time to explore all the issues associated with making an accurate diagnosis. A GP will provide an assessment that will include a general checkup to see whether there are any physical causes to the symptoms, then assess the nature of the particular mental health issue. The GP may refer you to a psychiatrist or suggest counselling. GPs can now also refer people to psychological services and sessions with an exercise physiologist, both with Medicare rebates. And depending on the severity of your depression, some medication may be prescribed to relieve symptoms. It is also important to know that for various reasons, the first GP you visit just might not be right for you. You should always feel comfortable talking with your doctor about how you are feeling. You should expect time, confidentiality, good communication, and empathy. If you don't feel you have clicked with the practitioner, try another one until you get the right match. Now, there are a variety of treatment options available for people experiencing mental health issues. The correct treatment options will vary based on the individual. For most people, it will be a combination of treatment options that work best. Seeing a GP, as we said, is a good place to start for professional medical help and support. As mentioned, you might get referred to a specialist, for example, a psychiatrist or a psychologist, ensuring that you get the correct diagnosis as well as the correct treatment. Many workplaces also offer employee assistance programs, or EAPs. These programs will also allow you to connect with a mental health professional. It is worth noting that not everyone has to go on medication, but for many people, medication is a crucial part of their treatment. If medication is involved, it's important to find the medication that best fits your symptoms, needs, and biological makeup. A good treatment is holistic. While some individuals benefit from medication, it should be given in combination with some type of talking therapy. And as hard as that can be when you're feeling really down, there are many things we can do to help ourselves to start to feel better. For example, exercise, a healthy diet, and doing things that you enjoy. What works for me is taking long walks with Vicky and Barley along the waterfront at Balmoral Beach, then around the local oval, as well, of course, as participating in mindful activities such as meditating and breathing. With the current pandemic, we are all experiencing uncertain time. In a moment, I'll show you some resources that Black Dog have produced specifically to support people through COVID-19. But there are lots of ways for us to support ourselves and our loved ones. So here are a few suggestions to get started. The Black Dog websites include lots of information to help all of us better understand mental illness, including information to assist with getting help. Not only is support available to you via your phone and the World Wide Web, you can also access the online clinic, which takes you through a range of clinical assessments for common mental health conditions. At the end, you will receive a personalised report with suggested support services and free or low-cost resources for you to access. This report can be downloaded, printed, or emailed to share with your family or doctor. Please do note that this is not a substitute for professional clinical advice. There are lots of great resources out there to help you gather more information about mental health. You may like to check out My Compass, an online interactive self-help program to help you to manage mild to moderate stress, anxiety, and depression. Whether you need help now or want to prepare for the future, My Compass will teach you ways to boost your mental fitness. Other places you can go to and find information and support online are Beyond Blue, Reach Out, Men's Line, Lifeline, and Sane Australia. As mentioned, Black Dog has created a number of resources specifically related to supporting people and communities to help navigate their way through the uncertainty and stress of COVID-19. Resources include articles around managing anxiety through COVID-19, self-care planning templates, fact sheets around managing working from home and supporting young people, apps and online programs to strengthen resilience and to improve mental health and well-being, mindfulness meditation tracks and videos. You can sign up to receive updates about mental health and well-being resources related to COVID-19. Another useful way to stay mentally healthy during this time is by staying connected, certainly with your friends and family, and staying active. For example, a virtual morning, afternoon tea and lunch catch-ups with friends, family, or colleagues. At the Black Dog Institute, apparently they have been running virtual fitness and yoga classes at lunchtime for staff to help keep them active while working from home, as well as introducing fitness challenges. And for me, I have been more active on my social media platforms, as have my family and friends. I've been enjoying long walks with Barley, as well as playing the occasional 9 holes of golf where social distancing does not appear to be an issue at all. However, the most rewarding thing I've been involved with is helping a good friend of mine who also happens to be a writer by proofreading his latest book. So if you or someone you care for is in a crisis situation, then there are a couple of great hotlines that you can call. Lifeline, of course, provides a 24-hour crisis support and suicide prevention service. The number is there on the screen, 131114. You can also go to the Lifeline website to find out more about its services, which includes the translating and interpreting service TIS. It's a free service, and once again, you can call them on 131450 and ask to talk to Lifeline, advising of the language that you need, and then TIS will call Lifeline and connect you on your behalf. And if you are concerned about someone, well, you can make a real difference by reaching out to them or letting them know that you are there for them. Reiterate just how important staying connected, reaching out, and checking in on others is at this time, especially with all the COVID-19 isolation and social distancing rules. As mentioned earlier, my extended family and I have stayed connected through the wonders of social media with weekly webinars just like this, occasional appearances on House Party, interspersed with app games like Words with Friends. To be honest, it feels like we are in touch more now than we ever were before the pandemic. As mentioned earlier, my workplace, my GP, and my psychologist were all integral players in supporting my recovery. It's important that I also include the support of my family and close friends, in particular, my wife Vicky, who not only is very good at asking, "Are you okay?" but also very good at realizing that when I sneak off to our bedroom for a discreet nap, I am actually taking time out to do my breathing and mindfulness activities. Vicky would also suggest that a checkup with my GP would not be amiss. My work alongside the GHFC is without doubt cathartic, as I now have a daily reminder to not only help others, but also to help myself. We all want to be a good friend to those close to us, but sometimes it can be tough knowing what to do or even to say to show our support or that we care for our mates. The Are You OK Day has some great tips for how to reach out to a friend or family member who you are concerned about. Firstly, choose a time and a place that is suitable for your conversation. Ask, "Are you okay?" Let the person know you are concerned and the behaviors that you've noticed that may be out of character for that person. For example, you may have noticed that they seem to be a wee bit more stressed than usual. Listen without judgment. Just listening is an invaluable way you can be there for someone. You don't need to solve the problems or fix things. Just be there to hear them out. You may wish to encourage action, such as talking to a health professional or accessing information and support online, such as My Compass. Do, of course, check in over time to see how they're traveling. This is critical. And let them know that you're there to listen if needed. You can also let people know that you're thinking of them with a simple text or email. Conversations aren't always easy, but no matter the response you get, letting someone know that you care about them is always the right thing to do. And no better time than now in October, being National Mental Health Month, and of course this week being National Mental Health Week. So while my road to now has not always been an easy one, I am so grateful that the experience of mental illness has taught me so much. For instance, I soon became to realize that mental health well-being is as important as physical health well-being. Let's face it, when someone sneezes, everyone says, "Bless you," then keeps an eye on you in case you develop full-blown flu. However, anxiety is, for the most part, invisible. As such, no one says, "Bless you," and no one keeps an eye on you in case your anxiety develops into depression. Mental health well-being is all about self-awareness and trust. Know that you are sneezing inwardly. Then have the trust in those around you to ensure that you take care of yourself so as to prevent the flu, being depression, from setting in. One of the best things I've gained from this experience is to better understand what it means to be mindful. To take time out each day to appreciate my surroundings, take note of my senses, understand my environment, think more about my family, friends, and colleagues, and to enjoy my life experiences. I now continue to try to understand my mental illness, to seek support whenever I'm having a tough time, and to keep open about my mental health and have conversations with my mates. To help yourself or others, you can do these things too. Okay, that's really all we have time for today. However, if you would like to keep in touch with the Black Dog Institute, you can like us on Facebook or subscribe to our e-news through our website. Sorry. Thank you again for taking the time to hear my story, breaking down depression, from which I hope you've gained some valuable insights. And remember, if you only take one message away from it, it is this: have a conversation with someone you are worried about. and do seek support if you are concerned about your own mental health. Okay, well, now I'd just like to cover off on any questions relating to my story, which I believe Natalie's been keeping a close eye on, as raised during the presentation. However, for more specific mental health inquiries, please do contact the Black Dog Institute directly, and there is most probably the best contact link for you, community@blackdog.org.au. Okay, Natalie, what questions do you have for me?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Charles, for your presentation. Let me just thank you on behalf of everyone for sharing your lived experience with mental illness. I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, your story. I think particularly as a senior manager, as a senior manager in the workplace, and being able to identify those signs as you experience them. So we do have a couple of questions. The first one is from Jenny, and she asks about, or first of all, she says, thank you for sharing so openly about your journey, Charles, and how you recognise different mental health issues and resources. She's asking, does the Black Dog Institute provide services or products that are in other languages? It would be great to see tools like My Compass in a different language. Do you know about that at all? Different languages?
No, it's a very good question, and I should know. So it's the first time I've been stumped for a question. So well done. Good, good. That is possibly something. Well, I would certainly refer back to the Black Dog Institute themselves and find out if that is the case. Yeah, good question, and I'm hoping that they do. My fingers and toes are crossed under the table here, but certainly, yeah, good question. And if we're not, then if they're not, sorry, then they certainly should be. So, thank you for that raising that question.
Yes, that's right. There's you've mentioned all of those sites actually, and you've given us a really broad range of different resources that we can call upon. So I'm sure that if we research some of those sites, we'll find some services in other languages as well. Thank you. Just wondering if anyone else has questions for Charles in the last few remaining. Oh, you might be able to answer this, Charles. Let me see. Let me see if you do. Do you know that the story? Or Jenny asks, she's also curious about the story of the name, the Black Dog, where that actually originates from.
We must be telepathic. I was just looking at the graphic that's on the screen here, and I was going to, if it didn't come up, I was just going to mention that. Yeah, oh. I only realised this when I started working alongside Black Dog in this volunteer role. That, yeah, the great British Prime Minister, wartime Prime Minister, Sir Winston Churchill, he suffered with depression, and he called it. He called it the Black Dog. That was his name for it. So, and he was quite open about it. So, as you can see, the finger, his favourite, his most recognised salute was the V for Victory sign. And so, the combination of his use of the word Black Dog and his internationally renowned sign, and then you can see that the silhouette in the background is a black dog's head made by the fist and the two fingers in the Victory salute. So that's my understanding of where it's the derivation, and you can certainly Google Black Dog, and that there is some history regarding Black Dog and how it now got the name it has. It had a different name to start with, but this is the one that eventuated.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I'm so glad that like organisations like the Black Dog have received funding and publicity, and they're much more. We're much more aware of organisations like the Black Dog Institute nowadays. I remember delivering a coaching program a few years ago now, where a person said they'd had experience with the Black Dog, and I didn't actually realise at the time what that actually was, and they were opening up around their mental illness on the actual program. So I think it's just great that organisations like the Black Dog Institute have much more exposure now, so we know where we can go to if we need help, as you mentioned.
Natalie, I couldn't agree with you more. Before my episodes, I didn't know of these organisations. I had heard of Beyond Blue purely because with work, I was living in Victoria at one stage, and Jeff Kennett was the Premier, and he went on after he was ousted to head up Beyond Blue. But I only sort of gave it a passing glance, and it's only now, or the last 16 years, that I realised how important these institutions are. And may I say that the great thing about having worked alongside many of them now is the fact that the one thing they seek outside of raising awareness and breaking down the stigma is that there's an increased presence of collaboration between them all. They they all want to feel like they're all working towards the same goal, and that they're not competing for the same dollar, if you like, in terms of funding. And maybe Black Dog looks at one area, Beyond Blue looks at another, and there's so much commonality. But at the end of the day, they're just there to raise awareness and to reduce stigma, and they do such a wonderful job. So that's why I was so delighted to be invited as a volunteer presenter.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. And I really appreciate your message when you suggest, Charles, that it's okay to seek help. It's okay to have a conversation. It's okay to go to a GP. It's okay to take medication. I think that's where it relates to that reducing stigma, but that all of those things are okay for ourselves and for others if we notice it, those signs that you talked about in others.
Yeah. In my case, being English background, yeah, very stoic, very stubborn, being a Taurian. My wife will tell you that, definitely. But the pain, I can't bring to say the words, but the pain of going through a breakdown, if you like, is just not worth the stoicism or the stubbornness, or just thinking it's not a problem. The slightest inkling, you've got to talk about it. You've got to see a GP, refer to a psychologist as quick as you can, because I would really not want anyone else to go through the pain that I did and many others have done, purely and simply when something could have been done if only I just stopped being so stoic, stopped being so stubborn, and just had a chat. The talking was the opening. That was it. Just having a chat. That was the best thing that ever happened. And my doctor is still my doctor today. I haven't had to see a psychologist for quite a while now, and the medication works for me. But it is definitely horses for courses in terms of medication, and the GP is the best person to sort that out with the psychologist. But it works. It works, and my life has improved dramatically as a result of my episodes. But I still wouldn't wish them on anybody.
Thank you for sharing, and I think that's what I appreciate the most about your presentation, Charles, is your honesty and your openness to share your lived experience. So as we're finishing up, I would like to share with everybody that Open Door this month is taking the initiative to do the One Step Forward, or 1 Foot Forward, I think it's called, which is the Black Dog Institute's challenge to walk for mental health and mental health awareness. I do believe I am leading at the moment in terms of the team and the number of kilometres that I have tracked, but I am not leading in the donations. So, so anyone that is listening can go onto our website at opendoorcoaching.com.au, and you can see how we're going. We set a challenge to walk, because we're in lockdown here in Victoria. We wanted to set the challenge to walk the equivalent kilometres from walking from the office here to Sydney. So that's 934 kilometres in the month. So we are doing really well. Sonia is tracking our kilometres, but we would really appreciate some further donations if anyone would like to chip in. That would be wonderful. So you can go to our website at opendoor.com.au to make those donations directly to the Black Dog Institute. And you can also there check out the rest of our program for Mental Health Awareness Week in 2020. And of course, Nick here is on the line if anyone would like to talk about mental health first aid. Once we finish up here, Nick can stay on the line and talk to anyone about our mental health first aid training programs, which have received an enormous amount of wonderful feedback. And this is the way that we're really making a difference in terms of introducing mental health first aid training to people, so they can also have those conversations that you talk about. So Charles, on behalf of everyone here at Open Door Coaching and everyone that's listened, I really want to thank you. Thank you so much for sharing your experience, and I wish you all the best with your adventures with the Black Dog Institute and also with Glass Half Full as well.
Thank you very much, Natalie, and to Nick and everyone at Open Door. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to you today. Take care, everyone.
Thank you. Goodbye for now.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.